I'm Daphne Brogdon, and this is 24 Inside, your look at all things 24. I'm in the presidential bunker at the seat of power, and I'm about to speak to the guy who's in the seat of power of 24, executive producer and co-creator Joel Surnow. Okay, Joel, so season 6, are you happy with the way the season's going?
Absolutely. I mean, the problem with the show is, any show is, as you get into over 100 episodes, you've done so many stories, and you've shown all your tricks. So the key is to either find new tricks or disguise the old ones. And I think we've done a little of both.
Are there some things, because there are some repeating patterns where you're like, oh, we can't try that one more time.
Yeah. No, we definitely find ourselves in a position where we've done it, but we haven't done it for a couple of years, so let's go with it. There's a whole new set of viewers, and let's hope that it's going to be new for some of the fans.
Yeah, then there's like some kooks like me who've been watching every episode, and
144 episodes later, give us a break. We repeat a couple times. If you think of most shows, when you look back in television, and Columbo did the same thing every episode. When you're telling a sequential story like we are, you're sort of allowed less rope in terms of doing stuff like that.
But one of the things I thought was interesting about this season was the first couple hours was it started. To me, it's had a slower start, and then when that Jack's evil family kicked in, it was like boom!
Yeah.
It really started to take off. Is that calculated at all to have that sort of ebb and flow?
No, I think the opening episodes of our show always play a little slower because it's setting everything up.
Yeah,
the first episode is always the hardest because you have 2 or 3 acts where you just have to establish the new players.
And what's happened in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I was interested with Wayne Palmer being the president, which I thought was brilliant. So was that when you guys first sat down in the beginning of the season, like, who could be president? Hey, what about Wayne Palmer? Huh?
Well, we thought our show always works best when we have people with an emotional relationship to Jack Bauer or to other characters we've seen in the past. So we thought, what a better way to invoke the memory of David Palmer and sort of play upon Jack's allegiance to David Palmer than to bring Wayne in. So that's again how we build the show through either past relationships or primary family relationships like his brother and his father.
But you knew he wouldn't be David Palmer, wouldn't be as sort of strong-willed.
No, he's a completely different character, and in a sense, it was a little over his head as president.
Yeah.
And so that was a whole different take on the presidency.
I've been talking a lot today about the casting and what the actors bring to the table. What's a character and actor you feel this season that's kind of, you think, gone beyond what even that was on the written page?
Well, Peter MacNicol is, to me, one of the great actors alive. You write a scene, and you see the scene in your head, and then you see him do it, and it's got everything that you've had in it, plus 3 other elements that you just couldn't even conceive of. And he also happens to be a very good writer. He'll come with little written segments that he'll add to it, and he'll always ask permission, and they're always very good.
Yeah.
So, he just brought so much to the part this year.
So is there anybody who got killed off that you wish they hadn't gotten killed off?
Well, I miss all these characters, but we love Roger Cross, we love Louis Lombardi and Xander Berkeley and Paul Schultze. All these characters along the way who've gotten killed off really meant a lot to the show and meant a lot to us personally. Carlos Bernard, but we find that by dispensing of some of the characters, we get to go into new territory, which I think is more important than just, again, giving the audience the same old episodic television thing of the same characters doing the same thing.
Where do you see Jack going in the next season or so?
Well, this guy is a really broken man. I think it's important that instead of being broken and down, that he gets broken and angry and reckless and crazy and energetic. I think we need to infuse him, constantly keep Jack infused with energy, or else it'll become, depressing for the audience. So the question is how do you take this tragic figure and still infuse him with, re-energize them.
But still showing, though, and which he's such a good actor, you can do that, those down moments, so it does seem like a fully dimensional
absolutely.
person.
And so that's the balancing act. I think that, as we move into the future, we're going to have to really examine a lot of things in terms of, again, keeping the show fresh. Where does 24 go now that it's, I feel like almost like we went through a post 9/11 cycle, and this was the culmination of it. A nuclear bomb hitting the shores of America and going off in a populated area. How do you take the show into a new space, keep it 24, keep Jack energized? That's going to be the challenge as we move into the next season.
When did you first come up with the idea of the show?
It was the summer of 2000.
So it's interesting. It was a pre-9/11.
It was pre-9/11, and the show was written, and it was called the Counter-Terrorist Unit in the pilot script, but we weren't really dealing with a terrorism story. We were dealing with sort of like a FBI story at the time. It just, so many weird things have happened that sort of dovetailed into the show. Some tragic, some not, but the show has seemed to have always intersected with the goings-on of the world.
Well, that's what has been so enjoyable about kind of making the scripts kind of meaty, like, the whole thing, like the detention center, and the question is that appropriate? And then the informant, well, maybe it is appropriate if you're getting information, and, just sort of the debates within the storylines that come out of the headlines.
I also think it's part of the world we live in now. It used to be, you read a newspaper and a magazine article, and things would kind of drift, and they would find their way into a drama a year later. Now with the internet and the immediacy of information, these kinds of debates are like, spewing forth
talk
on blogs
radio.
and internet and talk radio. So they're happening right now, and we're able to like feed into that right now. So
is there sometimes something to come up, and you writers might go, God, I don't know, it seems kind of last year issue. It doesn't seem like a really present issue.
Well, we never think of anything as an issue. Like, we never think, this is going to be current, because we know that by the time when we come up with it, it's not going to be on the air for maybe 6 months.
Is there a sort of a special guest star besides Peter McNichol who you've had this season that you were thinking about for a while?
Powers Booth. We had talked about Powers for about a year. We're huge Powers Booth fans. And he happens to be a cigar smoker, so he gets to hang out in the cigar room with us.
That's right, the smoke room is very important here on the set.
The smoke room is very important here, and then he just kind of fit right in, like stepping into a warm bath, and we love him, and he and McNichol are just tremendous together. I
was very happy to see Rick Schroeder. I always like his work.
Rick Schroeder came in at the beginning of the season, and we didn't really have anything for him, but we knew we wanted to work with Rick, and I think it's Ricky now.
He's back to Ricky?
It's back to Ricky. Isn't it back to Ricky? Yeah. On credit, he's Ricky.
I saw that, and I thought, they're going to have to change that. I think he's Rick now.
No, he was Rick for a while. He's Ricky. He's sort of like, Puff Daddy. He just changes.
Yeah, right.
He just adds a Y, loses a Y.
Why don't I change my name?
He might just be R.
Yeah. Richard.
So we waited. We didn't really have anything for him at the beginning of the season that was just right. So then around episode 13, we just decided, let's write him in to the second half of the season. And
with Curtis gone, you need somebody else doing field ops, right?
Yeah, you need a field guy.
But now we're not really quite sure whether he's a good guy, bad guy, or is that...
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah, no. So are you guys still writing and casting for the rest of the season, for the end of the season?
Well, we're just polishing episode 24, and we're casting the last 2 shows.
And then you get how much of a break before you have to start thinking of season 7?
What do we get, about an hour? Hour and a half? I think we're going to have an hour and a half this year. Last year, an hour wasn't enough last year.
Enough to enjoy a cigar.
Yeah, we'll have a cigar.
Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you, Daphne.
Claudia, just so people understand the difference between building a set and the set decorator. So something like this, when the set's all done, then you go in and provide all the details?
It's like being the interior designer. You come in with all the furniture, if there's drapes, if there's accessories, artwork, anything like that, that generally would be more in the world of interior design.
Now, one very exciting room you got to decorate is the Oval Office. Did you feel a lot of pressure? How did you approach that?
I was excited to do it, and I was really looking forward to it, and we got it. We worked on it for about 4 or 5 weeks. Got all the pieces, everything was perfect and correct, and then I was told none of it would be available for the run of the season. It was a conflict.
Oh no!
And I had 2 days to start all over. Everything has to be historically correct.
Well, how did you get like a model from a presidential library, or
We did a lot of research of what all the rooms are supposed to look like, especially the Oval Office.
Yeah, one of the things you always notice any real president is the pictures behind them, like for their speeches, is pictures of me and the dog, the wife, the kids. So what pictures did you use to go behind?
Well, we had the first President Palmer, his brother. So we had some of those pieces. We had 1 or 2 mementos from the first president.
Now, one of the other kind of cool sets this season has been Finding Martha and her little cabin, her home. What was it like to decorate that?
That was fun because one thing you never see on 24 are florals and flowers.
Yeah.
It's just
it's all hard edges,
it's so
right?
incongruent, it just would never happen. And our executive producer said that he wanted that flowers. He was seeing flowers in there. So we slip-covered all the furniture and big floral print and the drapes and everything. Lots of big floral prints on the walls. And then the scenes that subsequently took place in there were like so far from flowery, and it was just such a dichotomy that the contrast was really great.
What's another favorite set piece you did this season?
We did a pretty outrageous big warehouse set, and that was a lot of fun. We brought in all these monster shelves and bottles and chemicals and all these things going up to the ceiling, and it was fun to do that set.
And then there was the hotel room there where Philip took Josh.
Yes.
Was that a real hotel room? Or?
That was a real hotel room, but I changed all the artwork because whenever we go into a hotel, all the artwork has to be changed, and so
because you don't sign them.
We don't
off
have
on
the clearance. So what happens is we sometimes have to replace 30 pieces of art, the same size as what's up there.
Now, if you were to be able to decorate like the perfect home for Jack Bauer, how do you think it would look?
Oh my gosh. It's interesting because we've done several of his living spaces, but it's always just a stack of boxes in the corner because he never sits still for 5 minutes.
Right. But what would you like to see for him?
It's hard to separate Jack from Kiefer.
Right.
I'd have to give that one some thought.
Okay.
Because that would be a challenge.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Now, John, you're one of the guys that's in charge of getting all the locations for 24.
Right.
Now, have you always been with the show?
I did the pilot. Me and my assistant, Casey Warnke, who is now the other location manager on the show, we did the pilot. Had no idea that we would be on the show this long. Exactly. Job security is a great thing. And have been with it ever since and had a great time.
How has it changed over the seasons, or has it changed location-wise? Are they asking different things of you?
We've just gotten bigger and more expansive. Bigger locations, more locations. We're out all the time. We run around the city and try to find as many interesting locations as we can. The scripts have gotten more challenging and a lot more interesting.
So do you have people who are the scouts, or do you have to actually go driving around L.A. and see, is that how it's going to be good for this?
We all do that. There's 2 location managers and 3 assistants. Sometimes we bring on more people, but we all take our turn in the car, running around town, scouting, knocking on doors.
Okay, so walk us through it for people who don't know. Let's say you're going to have to get Jack's brother's house or something like that. You get the script for that. So what's the timeline for finding a place?
We get the script, we all read it, we sit down and have a conversation with the director. What are you looking for? Big house, small house, white house, blue house, green house? What type of house does this character live in? And then we just start looking at different parts of the city.
When you approach somebody to say, can we shoot in your home, and it's for 24, they're a little nervous it might get blown up?
There is some of that. People are either intrigued or they're not interested at all. It's an interesting moment when I finish the spiel about what we're going to do, and there's this moment of, do I want to or do I not want to? And then sometimes when you mention the money aspect, they're all intrigued.
Well, I was going to say that because I know a lot of people in L.A., their houses have agents.
Oh, yeah.
Which
There's
people might
location
not know
services.
that, but yeah. So,
there's location services that represent homeowners to have filming in their house.
And have you ever found a house you wanted to use and the price is too high? You're like, we can't afford that one.
That does happen. And we usually just say, thank you very much. We have a budget that we'd like to stick with, and if you're willing to meet us halfway, maybe we'll talk about it.
But have you also just approached a house cold, like knock on the door?
Oh, Definitely. A
Really?
lot.
You've been discovered. Your house has been discovered.
We have printed up little cards that say we're interested in shooting your house. If you're interested, give us a call back. We've got kind of like a 3-level that we work with. One is time factor, second is budget, and one is look. So we kind of have to find the balance between those 3 aspects.
What's one location this season that you've been particularly satisfied, that you felt like hit all 3 of that criteria?
Well, there was one this season that we didn't necessarily think it fit the criteria, but we ended up having to use it. And our incredible set dressing and art department made it look like what we were looking for.
Which one was it?
It was the Hauser House.
The one that they befriended the terrorists across the street.
Exactly.
So why didn't you think that location was going to work?
It just didn't fit a lot of the character points that we were looking for. It was,
Really? Like which ones?
Well, Mark Hauser was supposed to be, a younger guy, not too financially fit. The house should have been maybe more rundown, but we, of course, made it look more rundown.
So that's a cool thing about a lot of locations, is you're trying to convey something about the characters.
Exactly. The location in itself becomes, you hope, becomes a type of character.
Yeah.
Because there is a characterization of a location that kind of comes across on screen.
What about when you use a public place, like you use the Santa Monica Pier? Is that sort of dicey?
It's only dicey in the sense that you don't get as much control when you're using a public facility. The city of Santa Monica allows filming there, but you have to work with the environment. You have to work with what's going on the pier. You don't get to close the pier. You don't get to control the pier. We waited till about 9 o'clock at night before we really went out onto the pier itself, and so there was a lot less people around.
Sure. They probably don't want you doing it during the day. Did you get to see Gradenko's severed arm? That's so gross.
I saw it as it was being carried from the prop truck to the beach.
Oh, God. Maybe I won't get a corn dog after all.
Yeah, well, I just lost my appetite, thanks.
Yeah, right. What about the last, let's see, was it fighter jets?
Yeah, season 3 we coordinated with the Marines from Camp Pendleton to have 2 F-18s fly over downtown Los Angeles.
Was that some dicey negotiations, or?
It took a lot of talking to. We had several levels of defense that we had to go through. We got really good cooperation from the military, but we also had to go through the FAA. And the liaison from the FAA to the military. We walked into her office and laid out all of our charts and our maps and said, "This is what we'd like to do. This is what we have in our mind to do for the episode." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, that's my favorite show. Yeah, I think we can work on this."
Well, that's what I was going to say. 24 must also open doors, because, I mean, the people who are fans are fans.
Yeah, there's very few mediocre fans. They've never heard of the show, or it's their favorite show.
Yeah.
Basically, in the simplest of terms, they pulled the Delta Airlines flight forward a bit as it was approaching LAX, and they pushed the Southwest Airlines flight back a bit, and these 2 F-18s came down from the desert, hooked into the approach pattern to LAX, and as soon as they got over our set, they hooked out of that approach pattern and flew circles lower and lower and lower till they got down to about 500 feet off the ground.
Wow, you guys must have been like, make sure there's film on the camera.
Exactly.
God.
We don't have a lot of second chances on this one, but it worked out really well. They worked with us for about an hour. They spent like 20 minutes flying these circles, went back up to the desert while we reset the cameras, and then came back down and did another couple of turns, and it came out incredible. It was the most exhilarating moment when you see these F-18s peel off of the approach pattern and come lower and lower and just screaming by the ground, by the location where we were.
So what's a location that you have always wanted the producers to use that you've never been able to?
Well, I've always wanted to go onto a tanker ship, and at the end of season 4, I think they had an establishing shot of when Jack was on the Chinese tanker being taken away.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to film on it. We just had a helicopter shooting the tanker as it was steaming away.
Is it ever hard for you to turn that location brain off, like you're at a friend's party and you're looking around and you're like, hey, wait a minute, I could get 4 cameras in here, or whatever,
It actually is. First of all, I love my job because I love road trips and I love driving.
Right.
So whenever I'm driving around, I'm always looking at locations. I'm always looking at architecture. My hobby is photography, and I've always loved architecture. So it's a great combination of the
Right.
two. But I'm always driving around going, I think I could use that as a safe house.
Yeah,
or I think this would
exactly.
be a perfect oil baron's house, or or a hideaway location.
So you keep notes on that?
No, just mental notes.
Oh, my goodness. Good for you. I'd have to write it down.
Just mental notes.
Well, you obviously bring a lot to the table. Thank you so much for talking to us, John.
Thanks for your time.